So, hi everybody. We have Mr. Sanket Atal, who is the Senior VP and Managing Director Sites for Salesforce India. Very welcome, Mr. Sanket, in this very interesting fireside chat. First of all, I would like to start with the interaction around the CRM thing. Okay, means the main forte of Salesforce has been into CRM. So while customer relationship management systems have stood the test of time thus far, however, many say that they are in the dire need of a makeover. With the ongoing pandemic and changing customer expectations, the very concept of CRM is seeing a sweeping change. So, in the current circumstances, how do you see CRM systems evolving over the last couple of years?
Of course. Thank you, Amit, for having me. And if you take a look at what's happened in the past couple of years, the entire paradigm of going digital has accelerated and actually changed. And what's happened is, in today's era, we're all in the era of digital work from anywhere, right? Everybody's adapting their business models, how to work with, who to work with, etc. All of that is changing, as is the whole way in which we interact with customers. And the fundamental change that's happened in companies is essentially they are starting to look at what's called a digital headquarters model, meaning that buildings are not what determines where the headquarters is. It's the digital presence, and everybody's connected very well via collaboration tools, etc., that allow them to perform really well, no matter where they're working out of. So that's a very critical part of this. The other thing is, with the increasing digitization, as you've seen over so many years, every customer is expecting more and more things to be made available to them at a click. Now, within CRM, lots of things are happening. One of the things is the traditional CRM model of having essentially what was a database of information about the customer, about the last interactions you had, and how do you get in touch with them, etc. Those are things that are just the basics that are in existence. The next part of it is actually trying to get a much better understanding of the customer. Now, what all entities within your enterprise, typically there are like 30, 40 applications within the enterprise, even more, that are connected to the customer in some fashion. Mm-hmm. What is needed is for us to have a 360-degree view of who is your customer. Now, how does that end up working? You have to, first of all, identify the critical apps that exist within your entity. You have to make sure you identify the right data from there that needs to represent what the customer is all about, and bring all of that data together into one entity, right? And that entity basically represents what is your customer. That's also called the customer data platform. This platform contains information about all the customers that is pertinent. Now, with this as the foundation, you can do absolutely amazing things. In every application that you're using, say in your CRM, for example, in any screen you're at, you would have contextual information about the customer. Not only that, you would have things based on analytics and AI that tell you what might happen in the future. Say you're using a product like our Service Cloud, which is meant to service your customers. So there, when you click on a customer, you're trying to handle their particular issue. All the pertinent information about the customer dealing with any of the aspects of your company shows up. So the overall customer experience is greatly enhanced. And fundamentally, that's the whole concept behind the Customer 360, right? And so for us, we consider ourselves a Customer 360 company fronted by Slack. And Slack, like I mentioned earlier, is the unit, is the application that allows amazing collaboration within the enterprise and allows your success from anywhere. So fundamentally, that's the big change that has happened, Amit, and it's sweeping everywhere.
Very good. Very well elaborated from your side. So I also want to understand that businesses are highly focused on driving digital transformation initiatives to enhance their overall customer experience. So how is Salesforce helping businesses in driving these initiatives?
Well, you see, like I pointed out, what Salesforce is doing is enabling the businesses to better connect with the customers. Now, if you take a look at the customers, what they say is what matters even more sometimes than the actual products they're buying from these companies is the experience they have with that particular brand, because that's the thing that remains with them, right? So that part is very important, which means that more and more customers are expecting a more personalized experience when they interact with you. So whatever entities you have that are used for interacting with the customers have to provide that. So like I mentioned, if you have a 360-degree view of the customer, no matter what interaction you have, you'll be able to understand what are the expectations of the customer, what is the past history of the customer based on which how you should interact. Sometimes mentioning a particular product might be exactly the wrong thing to do for the customer, and sometimes it might be the right thing. So the option of being able to upsell your products, be able to sell, to cross-sell other products, all of these things are enabled by virtue of a deep understanding of the customer. And and like I mentioned earlier, they're like, many applications in an enterprise that deal with the customer. A critical part of this is bringing it all together. We have a product called MuleSoft. MuleSoft is the kind of like the final say in integration in the enterprise world. It allows you to pull data from all kinds of sources and put it together in a centralized unit, which then can be used as a foundation for your analytics, etc. And then on top of that, you can introduce various things, which are basically processes. We call them flows, which allow you to create particular automations that are pertinent to the particular customer, right? So this allows that experience to be amazing. I'll give you an example. Oftentimes, the typical thing that you expect when you're trying to interact with a company, when you have an issue or you want information, is that, you will talk to somebody or you would interact over email, etc., in one fashion or the other. Or perhaps it'll be a live chat with somebody. But all of these things are time intensive and they take bandwidth of people. Now, what's amazing is if you're able to take that experience and automate it and have bots handle it, but in a manner that's highly customized to the people on the other side. This allows the customer interacting with the vendor to have a very personalized experience. It introduces much greater efficiency. It introduces the ability to serve the customer wherever they are at, and everybody's happy. So fundamentally, the customer's interaction with your company determines the brand value they have of the company, and that is enabled by all the technologies, which are the result of a careful analysis of who is the customer and creating a 360 degree view of the customer or the company.
Very good. So, Salesforce recently introduced its startup program in India. So, I also want to understand if you could talk about what are the objectives behind this program and what kind of response we have received so far in the Indian market.
Excellent. Yeah, of course. So, the whole concept behind the startup program was to see what we could do to help the startup ecosystem. Now, the Indian startup ecosystem is number 2 or number 3 in the world, depends how you take a look at it. And it's doing amazingly well. It's thriving. In fact, over the past, say, year and a half, almost every week, there was yet another unicorn born out of India. So amazing things are happening. But what remains a fact, Amit, is that an overwhelming majority of these startups will not exist in 3 or 4 years because there's a high failure rate for various reasons. What we are trying to do is, in some way, if we can help using our strengths, if we can help the startups leverage these things so that potentially there's an improvement in the longevity and they increase their reach to the customers, etc., by leveraging us as a platform, then, that's the goal that we have, right? And there are lots of things. So let me give you an example. When you're trying to create a product, typically you have an area of focus that you've got, and there's a whole layer. That's why you have developers called the full stack developers, etc. So there are all these layers of technologies involved for you to be able to create a product that serves the customer. Now, it takes a long time for you to create each and every layer. That's why you have to leverage platforms. Salesforce has amazing platforms available for you to create your applications on top of. Now, these platforms could be what's called low code, so it's a drag and drop ability to create an application, or they could be pro code where you want to do much closer interaction with APIs to create something which is using a much more hands-on approach, right? And so this way you are able to create applications, and of course there are complexities there that have to be overcome by virtue of getting advice from people who are very technically adept in those platforms. Now, in addition to that, oftentimes these startups are like, well, we have the technologies available, but what is it that we should develop? So they need advice on areas of technology that they can explore and then try to penetrate the market. So Salesforce is a very open company, and trust is one of our top values. And keeping this in mind, we have created something called the Idea Exchange, which is basically the information about all kinds of areas of technology that remain to be explored as add-ons to what we already have. Right. So we have our sales cloud, which is our CRM. We have our service cloud, but there might be areas which need to be enhanced. There might be units of, functionality that might not exist today. These are opportunities for startups. We'd like to expose the startups to these opportunities, provide them the platform to develop them, and not just provide the platform. In addition to that, we give them what's called access to our App Exchange. App Exchange is the number 1 B2B application store in the world. So we give them access to that so they can put their applications there and then have global reach. So this is a very important way in which we can help the technology startups create amazing technologies on top of a platform and potentially get to the world market. In addition to that, a lot of these startups end up needing to do various things that are fundamental to running a company. But being technologists, they end up trying to do everything themselves, right? And that is not always the right thing, because a company has been formed for a particular core competency or a particular area of the market they want to address. They should run the company using technologies that will enable them to have efficiencies and keep the focus on the core competency, right? And for that, we have our products. And our products are designed for companies to use and to be able to handle information about customers like we discussed. So if the startups are interested in using our products, we give them access to our products as well through a very interesting kind of launch pad for them to enable them to start using our products to run their company. Of course, there are, where almost every startup would like to have at some point in time access to funds. And we have partnerships, we have connections with a lot of venture capitalists, we have angel investors who we are connected to. And Salesforce itself has a very large venture fund, which is interested in investing in companies and startups all over the world. So all of these things are available. We work with you to position yourself, and then with that potentially get access. So fundamentally, what I'd like to say, Amit, is that within Salesforce, there are various entities that are available that can help startups do really well. And what we have done is we have created like a one brand that interacts with the startup ecosystem through which the startups come in, and it's a conduit for the startups to connect with all these internal entities. Each of them are masters of their craft, and they can help the startups in an amazing way. And a startup can connect with one or more of these entities to get help in whatever direction they'd like. So fundamentally, we're all about the prosperity of the startups in whatever way in which Salesforce can be of help.
Very good. So I definitely like the funding part. Okay, because I believe start means people are talking about funding winter approaching. Means we can see that many of the startups are already going through a kind of funding means lack of funding, lack of relevant funding. Okay, so for that, so would there be? I mean, is there a criteria that you have for supporting partners? Means what exactly is the means can any partner, can any startup be a part of this initiative, or there is some criteria set by you?
Now, if you're referring to the overall Salesforce startup program, yes, any startup can be part of the program, right? We are not putting too many guardrails around it, because honestly, startups are of various kinds and all of them need help. You could be a startup that's focused on a particular area that's not necessarily a tech product you're developing, but you still need access to our products to be able to run your company, right? So that's one type. If you're a tech company and you'd like to leverage our platform, of course, that's the thing that I just described to you. So we're not putting any guardrails around it, but of course, we do go through a process of examining the startups. What's the fundamental thing they're trying to develop? What's the founding team like? Where have they gotten? What's the overall approach, their strategy? All of these things are taken into consideration before we accept them into the program. And I'd like to add, Amit, that our particular program is not an accelerator and it's not an incubator, right? Those things are there. They run very well, but there are plenty of those, in the ecosystem. We are a program, which means that you join us, we help you in whatever way we can, and after that, you become essentially a part of the ecosystem that we are creating, where you're connected to Salesforce. And I'll use an analogy here, Amit. If you take a look at the community of people who are users and developers, etc., of Salesforce and on Salesforce, we call that community the Trailblazer community. And it's a very powerful community. They come together for various events where they're trying to learn more about the product. Even during the COVID times, these guys came together to do amazing things to help, presence in various countries, especially in India. There's a big presence of Trailblazers in India. So likewise, with the program, we're looking at creating a community of startups that are connected with Salesforce, and there'll be an ongoing relationship. It doesn't end in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. You're part of the program. You're part of the community once you have joined into the Salesforce startup program.
Very good. So now coming to Salesforce again, I also want to understand if you could talk about your recent business achievements in terms of your business expansion, or maybe your revenue growth percentage and market share, or anything like that.
I'll just share a few points with you, Amit. One thing is that Salesforce is actually growing pretty fast. We are a company that's known for amazing growth, despite already being fairly large. And in the international markets, especially, our growth has been just phenomenal. So in APAC, we grew at 31% year on year, which is just phenomenal. And fundamentally, what that does is it tells you the real power of the business model, which I just described to you. The whole concept of customer 360, the concept of being Slack first and creating a customer data platform that allows you to do this personalized experience for your customers is just incredible. And it's been received really well. In addition to that, as an entity, Salesforce India has grown tremendously. Just a couple of years ago, we were at, I believe, around 2,500 plus people. And today we are greater than 7,500 employees in India. And they're located in Hyderabad, Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, etc. So the organization has grown tremendously. So Salesforce globally is doing really well, and the organization in India has grown tremendously. And to give you an idea of the impact, the consulting organization IDC came up with the concept of the Salesforce economy. What does the Salesforce economy mean? It means that in the next 3-4 years, say by 2026, globally, there will be 9.3 million jobs created and $1.6 trillion worth of new business created as a result of a connect with Salesforce in some fashion, either direct jobs or indirect jobs that are created as a result of Salesforce's influence. In India itself, there'll be 1.3 million jobs created in this period. And I think the net revenue impact in a positive direction will be around $66 to $67 billion. So the opportunities are tremendous. Right? There's a huge opportunity to make good revenues with this by virtue of creating products, etc. And also, if you'd like to get into the technology ecosystem to work on Salesforce technologies. And what we've been doing also is that we have a big skilling initiative. And the skilling initiative is powered by something we call Trailhead. Trailhead is our platform on top of which we have various courses that we share with the world. And you can go there and take these courses. And then if you'd like, you can take a certification and be officially certified as a developer for, on top of Salesforce technologies. So, and it's a very, very popular thing. We're working with various entities. For example, we recently had a tie-up with AICTE to go across so many hundreds and hundreds of colleges and have people sign up for a virtual internship so that they can get trained and be ready to work in the ecosystem. But in addition to that, what we have also done is we're trying to approach the underrepresented parts of the community. So, for example, for the LGBTQ plus community, we are partnering with the organization called Pride Circle and encouraging members of the community to take courses to make them more eligible to be working within the technology ecosystem in India. Likewise, for people with disabilities, there's an entity called Giftable we're working with on something similar. And to improve and increase the representation of women in India, we're working with Skillable, that's working with women, and again, giving them access to these technologies. Now, what's been found is that if you have a technology background, on top of that, if you become certified on various Salesforce technologies, your hireability improves and also your potential to earn more money improves tremendously. So in this manner, we're trying to greatly influence the ecosystem for people to get a better understanding of what's available and use this to rise up and become a much greater part of the overall technology ecosystem in India.
Very good, very good. So if you could also talk about your top 5 focus areas over the next couple of years.
For us, I'll tell you, we are growing rapidly in India. And of course, our goal is to, become a much greater part of the Indian ecosystem, to grow our revenues in India. The other part is you've already seen the growth that I've mentioned from 2,500 to 7,500 plus. We will continue to do that and create a much bigger Salesforce footprint in India. From the startup program perspective, our goal is to have to include many more quality startups within the program that we can help with, have more and more people be enabled to create applications that are on the App Exchange. We are also hoping that some of these startups can be funded by our own program, as possible. So the goals are tremendous, but fundamentally, we want to have a huge impact on India, and it's already starting because the rate at which we are actually making progress on all of these things is just huge. Like I mentioned with the whole education initiatives. If you just take, for example, that virtual internship that I mentioned about with the AICTE, our goal is to have more than 200,000 virtual internships in the next couple of years. And there are many other programs like this that we're using for skilling. So the impact we will have net on the people who are wanting to get good employment in India will be huge. And those 1.3 million jobs that I mentioned about, 1.3 million is a big number, and the supply is not quite there yet. So our goal is to close a supply gap in which everybody benefits. Most importantly, the people who have gotten credentialed and certified as Salesforce developers. So these are a few things we're looking at very carefully, and everything points to that. We're in the right direction, and I'm super bullish on the future.
Very good. Thanks a lot. Thanks. Those are definitely very good and very deep insights. Thanks a lot for your time. Thanks a lot for coming with us.
Thank you so much, Amit.